When I accidentally opened her email on our shared computer, the last thing I expected to see were messages that would make my heart stop for a moment. My name is Robin, I'm 32 years old, and I work as a head chef at one of Lincoln's popular restaurants. My wife Chloe is a talented cosmetologist with her own salon. We met 6 years ago at a culinary festival where she was helping organizers with makeup for models, and I was presenting my dishes. We fell in love instantly, got married a year later. 5 years of marriage. 5 years that I considered perfect. We lived in a cozy 2-bedroom apartment in the city center, planned to buy a house, dreamed about children. Chloe always said she wanted to wait a bit longer, strengthen her business, and I supported her completely. That Tuesday morning I woke up earlier than usual. Chloe was still sleeping and I needed to print a recipe for the new menu. Our printer was connected to her laptop, so I opened it. The screen wasn't locked and an email page appeared before my eyes. The first name in the list of unread messages caught my attention. Larry. I didn't know any Larry. The subject line read, "Can't wait for next Wednesday." My hands trembled as I clicked on the message. What I read turned my life upside down. Emails between Chloe and this Larry. Messages filled with words she once said only to me. Letters about their meetings, about how she felt alive next to him. I started scrolling further. Their correspondence had been going on for 8 months. 8 months of lies. 8 months of a double life. They met at the gym where Chloe started going last spring, supposedly to stay in shape. Larry worked as a tour guide, and judging by the emails, he often invited her on trips to the Bronx under various pretexts, supposedly to show interesting places for future photo shoots for the salon. The worst was yet to come. I found emails about finances. Chloe was transferring money to him. Substantial amounts from our joint account. She called it investments in a shared future. He was planning to open a travel agency, and my wife was financing another man's dreams with our savings. $43,000. That's exactly how much she had transferred to him over these months. Money we were saving for a house. Money I earned standing 12 hours by the stove. I printed everything. Every email. Every transfer. Page after page fell from the printer, burying my idea of happiness. Chloe woke up an hour later. I was sitting in the kitchen with a folder of documents. She came in wearing a robe, smiling as always. "Good morning, honey. Will you make breakfast?" I silently handed her the folder. The smile vanished from her face when she saw the first page. "Robin, I can explain everything." 8 months, Chloe. 8 months you lied to me every single day. And you didn't just cheat, you stole our money. She cried. Said it happened accidentally, that she didn't plan it, that she truly loved me, but with Larry she felt something different, something special. That he showed her a different world, different possibilities. That she got confused and didn't know how to stop. "I love you both," she whispered. It sounds terrible, but it's true. This was the moment when I realized there was no going back. I filed for divorce that same day. Hired a lawyer who reviewed all the evidence. Bank statements confirmed the transfer of joint funds without my consent. According to the law, I had the right to compensation. The following months were hell. Chloe didn't object to the divorce but fought for the money. Her lawyer argued that she also worked and contributed to the family budget. Court hearings, documents, endless meetings with lawyers. The entire process dragged on longer than I expected. Each court date was torture. Seeing Chloe across the room, looking defeated and tired, stirred conflicting emotions in me. Part of me wanted her to suffer as much as I had. Another part remembered the woman I married, the one who used to laugh at my silly cooking jokes and supported me through every career challenge. My work became my refuge during those dark months. The restaurant kitchen was the only place where everything made sense. Ingredients, temperatures, timing, it all followed clear rules, unlike my personal life. I threw myself into creating new dishes, experimenting with flavors that matched my emotional state. Dark chocolate desserts with hints of bitter orange. Spicy dishes that burned the tongue. My sous chef Marcus noticed the pattern but wisely said nothing. The restaurant owner, an elderly Italian man named Giuseppe, pulled me aside one evening after service. "Robin, I've been in this business 40 years. I've seen chefs destroy themselves over heartbreak. Don't let her take your passion too." His words struck deep. Cooking had always been my escape, my joy, my purpose. I couldn't let this situation poison that too. And this is only half the story. Eventually, in late October, the court ruled to divide everything equally. I got the apartment since it was registered in my name before marriage, but Chloe took half the savings. 21 of those 43,000 that she gave to Larry, I never recovered. The judge's reasoning was that while her actions were questionable, technically the money came from a joint account, and proving misappropriation required more evidence than I had. My lawyer, a sharp woman named Patricia, apologized after the verdict. "These cases are always complicated. At least you kept the apartment. That's worth more than the cash." I nodded, feeling hollow inside. It wasn't about the money anymore. It was about the principle, the betrayal, the years I'd never get back. The divorce was finalized in October. Chloe moved in with Larry in the Bronx. I stayed alone in the empty apartment, which suddenly seemed too big for one person. The first weeks I buried myself in work. Created new dishes, experimented with recipes, stayed in the kitchen until late at night. Anything to avoid returning to that silence, where every corner reminded me of her. Her favorite mug still sat in the cabinet. Her scent lingered on the bathroom towels I hadn't washed. Her handwriting marked pages in our shared recipe books. I started noticing small things I'd taken for granted. The way she used to organize the spice rack by color, not by name or frequency of use. How she'd leave little notes on the fridge, "Try the new coffee I bought," or "Don't forget to call your mom." The apartment felt like a museum of our failed marriage, every object a reminder of what we'd built and what she'd destroyed. Marcus tried to set me up with his cousin, a nice woman who worked in marketing. I went on one date to be polite. She was attractive, intelligent, funny. But I couldn't focus. Every laugh, every gesture I compared to Chloe. It wasn't fair to this woman, so I politely declined a second date. She understood, or at least pretended to. "You're not ready," she said kindly. "And that's okay." Colleagues noticed my state but didn't dare to ask. Except Marcus once said, "Chef, time heals. Just need a little patience." I nodded, though I didn't believe those words. Time felt like an enemy, not an ally. Each day stretched endlessly, each night brought dreams of happier times followed by the crushing reality of waking up alone. What happened after that is worth hearing. In November, Chloe started texting me. At first rarely, just asking how things were, if I needed help with anything in the apartment. I responded briefly, reservedly. But gradually her messages became longer, more personal. She wrote that she missed our evenings with wine and movies. Missed my dishes that I cooked especially for her. Missed how we planned the future. At first, I deleted her messages without reading them fully. But curiosity got the better of me. What did she want? Forgiveness? Friendship? To ease her conscience? I started reading them carefully, analyzing every word, looking for manipulation or genuine remorse. She wrote that life with Larry turned out different than she imagined. That he was always traveling, that she felt lonely even next to him. That the excitement she chased turned out to be emptiness in disguise. That he wasn't the man she thought he was. His promises were just words, his dreams were just fantasies. I didn't know how to respond. Part of me wanted to block her and never communicate again. But another part remembered 5 years of happiness. Remembered the girl I fell in love with at that festival. Remembered how she supported me when I was just starting my chef career, when I was just a line cook with big dreams. One evening, after a particularly brutal dinner service, I sat on the apartment balcony with a glass of whiskey. The November air was cold, biting through my thin shirt. I read through Chloe's latest message again. It was longer than usual, more vulnerable. She wrote about regret, about how she sabotaged the best thing in her life because she was scared of being ordinary, of settling down, of commitment. "I thought there was something more exciting out there," she wrote. "Something that would make me feel alive. But all I found was emptiness dressed up as adventure. The real life, the real love, I had that with you. And I destroyed it because I was too stupid to see what I had." On Christmas Eve she called. She was crying on the phone, saying she made the biggest mistake of her life. That she should have stopped when it wasn't too late. That she understood, I could never trust her again, but she had to say it. "I'm not asking you to take me back," she said through tears. "I just want you to know, what I felt for you was real. And still is." The line went quiet except for her soft sobbing. I stared out at the Lincoln skyline, lights twinkling in apartment windows where other families were probably preparing for Christmas, happy and intact. What was I supposed to say? That I forgave her? That would be a lie. That I hated her? That would also be a lie. The truth was far more complicated. "Chloe," I finally said, my voice rough with emotion. "I don't know what you want from me. An absolution I can't give? A friendship that's impossible right now? What? I needed you to know I'm sorry. Truly deeply sorry. Not because I got caught, not because things didn't work out with Larry, but because I hurt you. Because I destroyed something beautiful." We talked for 2 hours that night. She told me about her life with Larry, how it fell apart within weeks of her moving in. How he became distant and irritable, how the financial troubles started almost immediately. Apparently, the travel agency was indeed a fiction. He'd been fired from his tour guide job months before for unreliability and had been living off her money while pretending to work on his business. "Don't turn this off, it's about to get intense." He became verbally aggressive when I questioned the expenses, she said quietly. Never physical, but his words, they cut deep. He blamed me for everything. Said I was suffocating him, that I brought my middle-class expectations into his artistic vision. When I finally left, he didn't even try to stop me. I didn't know what to feel. Satisfaction that karma had worked? Sympathy for what she'd endured? Anger that she'd brought it on herself? All of it mixed together into a confusing emotional cocktail. I didn't sleep the whole night after that conversation. I thought about everything that happened. About the betrayal, the pain, the lost money and dreams. But I also thought about how people make mistakes. That sometimes real love doesn't always look perfect. That forgiveness isn't weakness, but perhaps the hardest form of strength. In January, I invited her for coffee. Just to talk. We met in a neutral place, a small cafe on the outskirts of Lincoln, where we wouldn't run into anyone we knew. Chloe looked different, tired, aged. But in her eyes I saw something familiar. Something that attracted me 6 years ago. A vulnerability, a genuine quality I'd forgotten existed beneath the surface of her betrayal. We talked for 3 hours. She told me everything, how this story with Larry started, how she gradually lost control, how she felt trapped between two lives. She admitted that she transferred him money because he convinced her of fantastic business plans, and she was too infatuated to think clearly. With Larry, I was looking for adventure, adrenaline, something new, she said, wrapping her hands around her coffee cup. But home was always you. Stability, safety, real love. I just didn't value it until I lost it. I know that's a cliché, but it's the truth of my life right now. She explained how it started innocently. A conversation at the gym. Then coffee after a workout. Then longer conversations about life, dreams, dissatisfaction with routines. Larry represented freedom, spontaneity, the opposite of our structured life. He never talked about mortgages or retirement plans or the mundane details of daily existence. He lived in the moment, or so he claimed. He made me feel young again, she said, tears welling up. Like I hadn't made all my life choices yet, like I still had infinite possibilities. But it was an illusion. A dangerous, expensive illusion that cost me everything real. I listened and tried to understand if I could forgive. If I wanted to forgive. Part of me screamed that this was madness, that she didn't deserve a second chance. But the bigger part remembered our story, our connection, which couldn't just be erased because of one, albeit terrible, mistake. The cafe owner, an elderly woman who'd been watching us from behind the counter, brought us fresh coffee without being asked. "On the house?" she said with a knowing smile. "Some conversations need extra caffeine." It was a small kindness that somehow made the moment feel less heavy. We started meeting more often. At first just as friends. Coffee, lunches, walks. Chloe divorced Larry. It turned out his travel agency was fiction. He spent the money on his own entertainment. She returned to work at the salon, rented a small room on the other side of town. She was rebuilding her life from scratch just as I was trying to rebuild mine. Before I continue, please pause the video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new interesting stories. Thank you. She told me about her therapy sessions, how her therapist was helping her understand why she'd sabotaged her marriage. "I have abandonment issues from childhood," she explained one afternoon as we walked through a park. "My dad left when I was 8. I never processed it, so I left you before you could leave me. Self-destructive behavior to confirm my worst beliefs about myself." Listening to her unpack her psychology didn't make the betrayal hurt less, but it added context. It made her seem less like a monster and more like a deeply flawed human being, which was somehow both harder and easier to deal with. And the ending of this story surprised even me. In February, when the snow melted outside and the city prepared for spring, I realized I still loved her. Not the Chloe who cheated, but the one who found the strength to admit her mistake, who didn't run from responsibility, who changed. Or was at least genuinely trying to change. I spent weeks agonizing over the decision. Called my sister in California who thought I was insane. "Once a cheater, always a cheater," she said bluntly. "Don't be a fool, Robin." Called my mother who was more measured. "Only you know your heart, son. Just make sure you're not confusing love with habit or fear of loneliness." I talked to Marcus about it over beers at our favorite bar. He listened without judgment. "Look, chef, I can't tell you what to do. But I've seen you these past months. You're functioning but you're not alive. If she makes you come alive again, if you genuinely believe she's changed, maybe it's worth the risk. But protect yourself. Don't give everything away immediately. Giuseppe, the restaurant owner, offered his perspective too. In Italy, we believe in passion, in forgiveness, in second chances. But also in consequences. If you take her back, there must be conditions. Clear boundaries. She must earn trust, not just receive it. I made a list, actually wrote it down on paper. What would it take for me to try again? Complete transparency, access to all her accounts, passwords, phone. Couples therapy non-negotiable. Living separately for at least 6 months. Regular check-ins about feelings and concerns. Zero tolerance for dishonesty, even about small things. If she agreed to all of it, genuinely committed to the work, maybe we had a chance. I proposed that we try again. Not move in together immediately, not return to the old life, but build something new. From a clean slate, with honesty and openness. If you mess up again, I said, looking into her eyes, there won't be a third chance. This is the last one. She nodded, squeezing my hand. Her eyes filled with tears of gratitude. I know. And I promise I will spend every day proving I'm worthy of this chance. Not just promising to change, but actually changing. I'm in therapy, I've cut out everyone who encouraged my bad decisions. I'm committed to being the partner you deserved from the beginning. Now, 2 months after we decided to try again, everything is still difficult. Trust returns slowly, like a tree grows, by millimeters each day. We attend couples therapy every week. Our therapist, Dr. Morrison, doesn't pull punches. She makes us confront uncomfortable truths, communicate about painful topics, rebuild our foundation from the ground up. Chloe still lives separately, but we spend most evenings together. We cook dinner together, she helps me with simple dishes and I teach her culinary tricks. We laugh over small things, carefully touch upon the future, build bridges over the abyss she created. You won't guess how this all ends. We're taking it slow, deliberately, carefully. Some days are good. We fall into easy conversation, share stories from our day, kiss goodnight like a normal couple. Other days are hard. I see a notification on her phone and immediately tense. She notices and feels guilty for making me doubt. The tension builds until we have to talk it through in therapy. Dr. Morrison says this is normal, that rebuilding after infidelity is a long process. Most couples who survive this say it takes 2 to 5 years to fully restore trust, she told us. And the relationship that emerges is different from the one before. Not better or worse necessarily, just different. We're creating new rituals, new memories to overlay the painful ones. Saturday morning farmers market visits where we pick ingredients together. Sunday evening cooking experiments where we try recipes from different cuisines. Monthly check-ins where we sit down formally and discuss how we're feeling about our progress. Chloe gave me access to everything, her phone, her computer, her bank accounts. At first, I checked obsessively, looking for signs of deception. Now I check less frequently. Not because I trust completely, but because I'm learning to live with uncertainty, to choose faith over fear. She wrote me a letter, 20 pages long, detailing everything about the affair. Not the physical details, which I didn't want, but the emotional journey. When it started, how it progressed, what she told herself to justify it, when she knew she'd made a terrible mistake, why she didn't stop sooner. Reading it was excruciating, but it helped. Knowing the full story, having no more secrets lurking, gave me a strange sense of closure. We talk about the future carefully. Children remain a distant possibility, something we won't consider until we're certain we've rebuilt a solid foundation. The house we'd planned is also on hold. Right now, we're focused on the day-to-day work of healing, of becoming individuals worthy of a healthy partnership. Chloe started volunteering at a women's shelter, helping survivors of domestic violence. She says it gives her perspective, helps her appreciate what she has, reminds her that actions have consequences. I see the change in her. She's more grounded, more grateful, more present. I don't know if we'll succeed this time. I don't know if I'll ever completely forget that morning when I opened her email. The image of those messages, the feeling of my world shattering, is burned into my memory. It surfaces at unexpected moments, when she's late coming home, when she's quiet and distant, when she receives a text from an unknown number. But I also know something else. Real love is worth fighting for. Even when it hurts. Even when it's scary. Even when everyone thinks you're foolish. Sometimes a second chance isn't weakness. It's the bravest decision you can make. Because it's easier to run, close yourself off, never risk again. But we decided to risk. Together. This was the calmest day before the storm of healing began. The real work of rebuilding what was broken. Marcus asked me last week if I regret giving her another chance. I thought about it carefully before answering. Ask me in a year, I said. Right now all I know is that I'm trying. We're both trying. And that has to be enough. Life isn't a fairy tale. There's no guaranteed happy ending, no promise that love and effort will always triumph. But there's dignity in trying, in choosing hope over bitterness, in believing that people can change. Chloe and I are writing a new story. Not a continuation of the old one, but something entirely different. Built on the ruins of what was, incorporating the lessons of what went wrong, reaching toward what might be. And maybe that's the real ending, not a perfect resolution but an honest attempt at redemption, forgiveness, and growth. Two imperfect people trying to create something better than what they had before. YouTube may no longer suggest my channel to you, so subscribe to it to receive new interesting stories. You will also help the channel grow and improve the quality of its content. The screen now displays a playlist with other interesting stories that you can listen to. You can also write in the comments what stories you would like to see on the channel.